and you are boarding your aircraft. First of all, you see the airport and the infrastructure. You may see other airlines, and it may create a wish for you for your next target, for your next trip. And then you are departing. The world gets smaller. Maybe you see the area where you're living in. And then after maybe several days of clouds in Hamburg, you break through the clouds and you see the sun. And then you're heading to your destination, whether it's a leisure trip or a business trip. And it could be a city, it could be a landscape, whatever it is. But this is one thing I still enjoy, and I hope you enjoy. But there's also a second view. The second view is, maybe because of my previous job, and for many of you because of your profession, I look outside of the window, and especially at the airports, I have a look at what is moving on, what is going on around the aircraft. Is the forklift or the truck electrically driven, or is it still a diesel engine? What about the tow truck of the aircraft? Is it electrical or diesel driven? What about the pellets which are moving into the aircraft? Are these still the old steel pellets, or is this light aluminum with plastic foils? What about the plastic covers? Are these recyclable materials, or is it still the old way? So there's many things you can monitor, because it needs a ballet of different players to have an efficient, let's say, departure of an aircraft. You have the ones who provide the food, you have the ground handling, you have the fueling, you have many different areas which are coming together to create perfectly the result, your travel for your trip to the future. And when you are in a linear economy, then you have planning which is based on step-by-step approach in a modular basis. And usually this creates certain behaviors. Because in a modular thing, you have to expect the worst. You're not really connected to the step before you and to the step after you. So what do? You plan to the max. Your stock levels are to the max because it's unknown for you what to expect. And it means you have a lot of planning issues. You prepare manpower and materials to the max. It's important. You may be the hero to save something because you have done something extraordinary well and you saved a flight or whatever it is, what it could be in a logistics process. But usually this creates tons of waste. And I think there is a McKinsey World Economic Forum figure which says in a circular economy, we could save up to 4.5 billion until 2030 if we would eliminate this waste. And how to do that? This is the total difference in a circular economy. In a circular economy, you need to exchange data, because with this exchange of data, you can plan your step much better ahead of time, because you have transparency. And this transparency helps you to eliminate waste and to create efficiency. And this is a key element, that you need data transparency and you need efficiency. So it is important that for this, you need to have a cultural change in your company. You need to have a strategy to move from a linear, modular approach to a circular approach in the production process, whatever it is, logistics or production. And that means you need to go for a cultural change in your whole strategy, and this is something you need to drive with your entire team of experts to produce the product. And then, of course, it needs technology as well, because once you have the cultural setup, then you need to implement technologies. And let's look at a few technologies. And maybe as a hint, Lufthansa Industry Solutions, we are the backbone of introducing digital elements to Lufthansa Group. It's about an expert team of 3,000 digitalization experts, 30 years of experience, 75 nations, based in 4 countries, around 350 million of revenue, 50% with the Lufthansa Group and 50% with the external business, because we are usually within the logistics, whether you do an aircraft and you have an airport, and you do freight and passenger, it's the same in a harbor with ships and freight, or in Deutsche Bahn, or any other area of logistics, because you are dealing with the same elements of technology to create sustainability and a circular economy. And this is us. And let me go and show you some of the examples which are maybe important to understand. With IoT, you are connecting in your circular economy the data which you need to be efficient. And it can be easy things. For DHL, if you order something, you will look online, when is my piece, my parcel arriving to my hometown? In a more broader range, from an industrial point of view, you may want to look for much more elements with sensors attached to your logistic good. It could be that you look up for temperature, because you have a lot of temperature-sensitive goods. It could be that you look for radiation. It could be that you look for G-forces for very sensitive goods. So you need to think, which technology do I need for my use case to create the data which is needed then on a platform later to connect the different pieces of the circular economy to take the right decisions. And we, for example, have produced a product which is called LEAP, where we are adding these sensors. And these sensors are not only for the transparency, because you can really think of totally new use cases. For example, track and pay. Think of that you are connecting your pieces with sensors, and you are creating and you are receiving the data. During a logistic process, you can connect these data to the payment, because you can say, I can localize my good. I know it has arrived. I know the temperature has been monitored and was always in the agreed parameters. I can check that there was no G-force shock, that I can imagine my good is still in a good condition. And then you can initiate automatically the payment. You don't need any other process. That's resource efficiency. It's a circular economy. You can reduce waste, you can reduce manual effort tremendously. And there's more which you can do. You could do smart waste, because in your sensors, and let's take, for example, the garbage industry. Today, in our private life, every Monday, the yellow bin, every Friday, the blue bin, and the other bin on Wednesday. But if they would be sensor monitored, the company could track the fill grades and then say, I don't need to go and stop at every location. I could go in a very efficient way and make my move based on data. And with this data, I would be much more efficient than going simply one by one by one. I could make recommendations and say, you have a small bin, use a bigger bin. I can make recommendations the other way around. So you can connect the dots for a much smarter business, which could reduce up to 40% of all the driving and the travel, for example, for the huge truck. And this is elements which you can use and connect, and where you can use technology. And of course, AI is a kind of buzzword. But on the other hand side, it's a technology which is super, super important for us. And let me give you a few examples how important we see this technology. Because when you look at the personal computer, the PC, it took the PC 20 years to reach 30% of global usage. The next technology was the internet. And when you look at the internet, it was 50% of use after around 15 years. Look at the smartphone, and the smartphone was 50% use after less than 10 years. My daughter, 17 years old, the first iPhone was 27. She doesn't know a world without an iPhone. But when you look at AI, it is not specifically connected to a hardware. It's more like little bits and pieces you may notice in your private life. But it is there much faster than any other technology we have seen. It has an impact on everyday's life, whether you have it on the cell phone or you're talking to a chatbot or whatever it is, it's everywhere. And you need to have a trusted partner if you invest in AI, because you always need to ask yourself, who has trained this AI? What is the basic data it has been fed with? Because only then you can be sure that it really serves your business purpose, not only from a technological, but also from an ethical point of view. This is why we think it's important. In our product, for example, the predictive maintenance, in AI, we train an AI based on previous usage, based on future usage. When will certain things in the value chain maybe fail? A high expensive machine. And you want to know, when do I reach maybe certain limits of a technical feature, because you want to do a planned maintenance and you do not want a machine which is $1 million on a daily basis that it breaks during production. These are the elements which you would do usually with a predictive maintenance. And for example, in food waste, we are monitoring with a standard camera system. For example, in ships, cruise ships, the buffet. Because in the past, you may have overproduced. Yeah, and the last, let's say, food was not consumed because you wanted to do good for your customers. But now we are using the standard camera, put an artificial intelligence behind it, and this artificial intelligence is checking and counting basically. It's counting how much of food is still in this little buffet, and do I need to refill because it gets empty? Then we place an automatic order in the kitchen because we have a predictive consumption and we know how many people will still use it. Or we say, please stop it, because in 10, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, it hasn't been used. You do not need to prepare anything new. Which also then contributes to an efficient food waste. We are counting, for examples, on Lufthansa aircraft, where we have given free apples to our passengers. We counted the number of apples which were given back and not consumed. And it's not only an impact on eliminating waste, it's, if you connect it in the right way, the same way good for your purchasing process. Because in your purchasing process, you will have to look, what do I need to purchase? I do not want to over-purchase. And of course, I do not want to have too less. So these things connected are giving you a huge advantage in terms of data. And then you need an additional one. Maybe to a certain extent. Blockchain is not really the hype anymore. It was many years ago. And lots and big promises from this technology. But if you set up a blockchain in the right way, it can still deliver good value. Whether it's according to the supply chain law, because you want to have traceability, which is not manipulated, which cannot be changed. It is traceable through the whole product life, and you want to have that. Then blockchain could be a good technology for you. Or you have a super high value good. I think after me it's Düsseldorf Airport speaking, and they have tow trucks to tow huge aircrafts, maybe worth in the new price up to 1 million. And these trucks, you may want to have, let's say, a maintenance track record, which is not on a manual file anymore, but on a digital file, and which is safe and stored and cannot be manipulated, because if you sell it later on, it's a simple data download, and you have it all there, and it creates trust with your additional partner that this tow truck does not need to be scrapped, but can be reused at another airport, for example. And it creates even a higher value in the sale, because when you sell such a high volume part and you have an absolute bulletproof track record with a digital passcode built up in blockchain, you will sell it for a much higher price than what you do if you have manual records. Everybody buying a private car second-hand will look for the checkbook. And this is what you can do with the blockchain technology in a very, very good manner. And the last technology, which is of course, let's say, a piece of it, is when you put everything then together. You need to think, how do I combine all this data? And of course, you may think within my company, for example, I need a 5G network that everybody is, let's say, connected. And then on a bigger scale, you may think, okay, I need a data platform, data warehouse, then put it in the cloud so I can distribute the data also to other participants in the value chain, which are not in my company, but I need to do this, as the example with the aircraft shows. When you want to get it fly up in the air, it's 5 to 6 different companies around the aircraft, and everybody is depending on each other. So if you want to create a circular economy which is efficient and eliminating waste, then a data platform is basically a must. And this is how the things are coming together. And data should then be available for everyone. And this is, let's say, how the things are coming together. And for me, it's important that technology in a digital strategy, in a circular economy, is not an option. It's a must. And you may have this task once, and you may want to entrust companies who have done it several times, installing a 5G network, using a data platform, building up blockchain elements, and implementing AI features. And this is what I wanted you to take home. You have the use cases, we have the technology, so if it's about circular economy, then let's shape the future together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dietmar. Thank you so much.